Jeff, the days are too short for me to listen to an entire podcast series and then discuss it with you. Can we do like some sort of summer shorts, but for winter instead?
I'm sorry, is it that when the days are short, like, are you like solar powered, or like is your ability to have a conversation with me dependent on daylight? Are you like a reverse vampire?
It's just basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, in the summer, the days were longer. I'm not going to get into the logic of this. Yes, let's do it. Let's tackle some short podcasts, single episodes, and let's talk about them.
Great. Can't wait. Welcome to So Much Crime, So Little Time, Winter Shorts. I'm Dee.
And I'm Jeff, and this is our winter series where we are recapping short true crime stories.
And today we're going to discuss an episode from Crime and Coffee Couple. It's called The Case of Gisèle Pelicot, which was released on the 1st of December 2024. A great day for a birthday, if I do say so myself.
If you haven't listened to this episode yet, we have a link to it in our show notes.
All right, Jeff, let's jump into a discussion. Do you have any where you would like to start particularly on this?
Yeah, I actually had something that I thought we should start with, which is this is one of the most upsetting. We've listened to a lot of upsetting stories about people being horrible to each other, people doing horrible things. And I feel like on this podcast, sometimes we try to find places for levity, but also try to be respectful of the crimes that we're discussing. I was listening to this podcast that you shared and really thinking about how we were going to discuss this. And I was really struggling, honestly, because I felt like this is one of those cases that I think there's really no humor here. There's no place for that. This is one of the most serious things I think we've ever discussed. One of the darkest stories I think we've ever discussed. And
why do you think that is? Like, is it because the 50-year marriage, like the break in trust, like the fundamental break in trust that happened there? Where, you know, I think Alison and Mike, the couple who were hosting, they kind of alluded to that as well. And you could hear it in the emotion, I think, that came out towards the end. I haven't listened to other episodes of theirs, but that felt genuine. It felt real. And I think, I suppose I wonder, was it like the fundamental break? Because I think they mentioned at one point how at the end, they were basically saying, don't forget the person who might be committing this. And they were speaking a lot about like domestic abuse at that point. And they said they were basically saying that the abuser could be in your home and you might not know it, such as was in this case. And it's just, I get what they're saying. And I get that that's probably why this case is so hard. But also, we can't live our lives assuming that the person we're beside may in fact be an abuser. I think it was a hard, I don't know. I felt like the emotion was there maybe from other episodes that they had listened to and kind of, it felt like pent up emotion nearly, if that makes sense.
Maybe,
from the
but
hosts.
I feel like this is one of those stories. I was saying this to someone today as I was preparing to talk about this with you. I was saying like, this is one of those stories, because I've talked to, this is a story that a lot of people have heard a little bit about, at least a little bit about. And I had heard a little bit about it. I knew, mostly from you, I guess, about this story for a while now. Like, this story has been in the news for a while. But it's one of those stories that I think the more details you find out, the more sort of devastating it is. And the more it's sort of just like horrific thing upon horrific thing. And there's a cumulative effect of that. It's not a single incident. And it's not a single crime. It's a lot of crimes, with a lot of like sort of like satellite crimes, like the other crimes that the husband, whose name I don't remember, Dominique, possibly committed or was associated with or potentially could be charged with. Those in and of themselves are horrible, terrible crimes, like rapes and murders. And those have nothing to do with what he did to his wife. And I mean, it's just, you pile on the crimes of all these other men, and then you just keep adding on to it. And then also their children.
I think that was one of the things that really got me here, was when they were talking about like the proximity of like like where they lived in Maison in France,
Mm-hmm.
and the 51 out of the 76 perpetrators, rapists, lived like, I think it was something like 60 kilometers away, like not far from this little town in France. It's kind of baffling and so upsetting that so many men in not a big city, like it's said that it's a small city, town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That so many men not only did this, but they did it. But they went onto this website. They had all, like, they had these ideas that a woman doesn't need to consent, her husband can. And even those who they spoke about saying, oh, well, it was a bit weird that she was snoring. And it was a bit weird that, or I felt weird after it, and, you know, it didn't happen again. I'm like, but you never do anything about it? Like, wait, like nobody has a conscience or common sense, if we were to believe, which is bullshit, that they didn't know.
Right.
That they thought she knew.
I actually think that makes it, I think the sort of spectrum of denials from people who said, yeah, I did something wrong and I am sorry, to the people who said this wasn't wrong because of whatever reason. I think the fact that there is such a spectrum of reactions, to me, makes it worse, because it just adds sort of additional, like, it just sort of piles on in a way. If they all sort of had the same mentality, the same kind of group mindset, that would at least be simpler, I think, a little bit easier to understand. But these men clearly all had different ideas of what was going on, but they still committed the same horrible acts. And none of them stopped it for all those years, because they all could have. Any one of them could have. And none of them did for all that time. And they saw her in the day. Some of them met her. Like, they were in her home when she was away. Like, there were so many things that just made it so much worse.
Yeah. I feel like there are a lot of elements of this case that alone would have been so upsetting if you had just taken a 50-year marriage, fairly solid-ish, and then Dominique is arrested for being the suspect, the prime suspect in a few cases, in other cases throughout the years, and being arrested for upskirting. All of that, I think, nearly would have been pretty upsetting in and of itself. It's kind of disgusting to even consider. But I think for me, this case, the part that really, like, would rock me is 50-year marriage. And not only would he drug her to rape her himself and film it, but to allow and to kind of be getting off and having other men come in. And then not only that, to see her go through issues with, like, infections.
Yeah.
And
she got STDs.
Yeah. And, like, anxiety and feeling groggy and all of that. And to kind of be fine with it. Like, that must have, like, messed her in the head. Kind of like, what's happening? Like, been probably worried, like, is there something more? Blah, blah, blah. All of that is one thing. And then on top of that, you have this gross element of, like, parading her around a shopping centre or a supermarket so that someone can look at her and decide whether he wants to be one of them, or bring your friend over saying you're going cycling with him and you talk about cycling, but he's actually there for the same thing. Like, there's just so many layers of it. But I really do think it's this 50-year marriage, the trust that you have in someone, and not being able to see that they couldn't do anything, you know, against me.
I agree with that. I think your point, that one of those points that you made, the one about if if his only crime was this sort of elaborate upskirt photo scheme, like that's gross and sad and upsetting in its own way. Those type of men, it's usually men, I think, who do that is like it's a certain sort of depravity that I don't know. It's just gross, and it's such a violation. And that's like I mean, you can't compare offenses, but that's sort of like the least offense of the things that happen here.
I know. And you know, the other thing even about that though, Jeff, like it's so pivotal here because seemingly it was a security guard in a store who caught him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was the reason his phone got taken in is because the woman who the security guard told went to the police. If that security guard was one of the
Yeah, sure.
population of gross men who think any of this is okay, maybe there were instances. Like we heard about an upskirting instance 10, 12,
Yeah.
I don't know, a
Wasn't
number
the
of
first
years
time.
beforehand.
Yeah.
It's not as if he didn't do it at all in between. Like
Well,
he
it wasn't
definitely
illegal
did.
that first time.
Did any?
It wasn't against the law.
No, but my point is, between the first time we hear of and the time that he eventually gets caught, he's obviously done it in between then. Who else saw him and was like, he's just a guy getting his kicks.
Right.
It's a victimless crime type of crap, which is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just it was heartening to hear that a security guard was pivotal in getting and the woman who was being upskirted. It's such a fucking gross, weird thing. It's so pathetic.
Yeah.
It's kind of runs like is it a juxtaposition between like the laws at the time, which are just so archaic, like the fact that consent doesn't come in if you're over 15, like consent hasn't been in the law. Although I will update you. So today, as we're recording this, it's October 30th. So on the 29th of October, the news came out that the French Parliament has ratified an amendment to add consent to the legal definition of sexual assault and rape. And that is like the whole article is because this entire change is a result of a cross-party years-long debate, which gained renewed urgency after last year's Pelicot rape trial, in which 50 men were found guilty of sexually assaulting or raping Gisèle Pelicot.
Well, that'll help the next time. I guess that's good. I mean, that's a good outcome. Actually, and that brings me to something I wanted to talk about with regards to sort of the structure of this podcast and this story, because I think the two main things I knew coming into the story were that this was about a man who basically drugged and let men rape his wife. That's thing number one. Thing number two is that this woman is a remarkable, brave hero who wanted her trial to be open and public. And she put herself out there as the face of this crime and kind of took ownership over it, right? In a way that took an incredible amount of bravery. And I was actually hoping when we started listening to this that more of this story would be about that than it was. I felt like that was mentioned, that came up, but I felt like, just talking about this podcast, too much of it was about the crime and not enough of it was about her and kind of what she did after, like once this came to light.
That is true. I agree. I do think they mentioned her bravery and how it was very unusual in France at the time for a woman to want to go on record and, want to be named.
Yeah.
Like waiving her right of anonymity, insisting on that public trial. There's a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
But she decided, as it says, she's quoted saying that she wanted to ensure that shame changed sides. That she shouldn't feel shameful. That's a huge decision. Like, not just for her, but for her family. Like when you think of the kids, the grandkids.
Yeah, she's a grandmother. Yeah.
It does feel like her name is the one we remember.
Which, I mean,
And
it should be. Her name is the one on the episode, right? Like her name. Yeah.
do you not feel like so you don't feel like it was enough of like, look what she did. She is fantastic.
No, I think, and this is, I mean, this is getting into sort of like a broader true crime complaint I have of just like focusing. And I think this is also sort of symptomatic of this type of show, like the show where you've got the person who's telling the story and the person who's sort of reacting to the story. I think that can devolve into the sort of focus on the most kind of lurid details because that generates more of a reaction. And I'm not saying that's totally what this was. I think a little bit of what this was. But other ones, we listened to other shows that are sort of in the same structure and style of expert and reactor. And I think that's often like it's the job of the second person to be like, oh, wow, really? Like, oh, that's so crazy. Oh, I can't believe that happened.
Mm.
And I'm also like a little bit biased here. I watched a few minutes of this as a YouTube podcast to see. Did you watch any of them? Have you seen them?
No.
And I want to qualify this by saying I don't normally watch podcasts. I prefer to listen to them. Like this podcast, I think podcasts are best as an audio-only medium. And I know a lot of podcasts that put their content out as video on Spotify, on YouTube, wherever. It's just people sitting in kind of an awkwardly constructed set or a bad set, or their homes, whatever. This one, they have a set. They're sitting in these chairs. At least in this episode, she has a laptop sitting on a pillow that she's basically reading from. He's got a notepad also on a pillow. They both have pillows on their lap, which is kind of weird. And there's a dog between them, which she makes reference to at the beginning of the episode. At one point, I mean, I watched for like 4 or 5 minutes on YouTube. He takes out his phone and is looking at his phone while she's talking. I don't know. It kind of adds a layer of sort of flippancy to the whole thing.
Yeah. I get what you mean. I think there's another way to see it because like one thing I was unsure about is it was clear she was reading more or less from a script. There was parts I felt like that were just her talking about what she had heard. Definitely for me, the scripted versions of podcasts in general, be it this type of podcast or any other one, even if there is a script, feeling like it's scripted, I don't love it personally. And I felt like some parts of this did have that vibe.
Yeah.
And I think there's a different way you could look at it. I understand what you mean about the flippancy, especially if the phone's coming out or whatever. But the other side is like maybe they're really trying to make sure that that how they present the information is fair and respectful, and maybe having kind of more of a script and a structure is how they were able to do that. Like how they best feel like they're able to do that.
It's not I mean, I know we have this debate about how much scripting we should do, and we don't do very much scripting. Most of the show is unscripted. I don't know. I have notes. I have notes to make sure I remember people's names and what I want to say, and
to remind me of people's names. To
remind you of people's names. Yeah. I'm getting into pet peeves here, but these are some of my issues with this. I did think like this. I certainly learned a lot about this case, things I didn't know. It was a concise story for such a broad and sweeping, years and years long story. I mean, this could have been a 10 or 20 part podcast. And
it will be. It's
sure.
just a matter of time.
Yeah.
I also felt like I learned a lot in this, even though I knew a lot about the story. I did think that there was certain elements that could have been not there, like this whole like they divorced at some point and she had an affair and he took that badly. That to me was a weird add-on.
Did it feel victim blamey?
It felt weird to me because it was like, oh, we know like not every marriage is perfect. And I'm like,
sure. Okay.
Fighting over not replacing the toilet roll or who's emptying the bins or, this is not just like normal marriage stuff. And I don't know. I don't know if I felt like it was victim blamey, but I felt like it was unnecessary. I feel like kind of what you're saying, if we're going to mention anything about Gisèle, we should be mentioning more about what a badass she was, how incredibly brave she was. Yeah, that's kind of where I would go with it. I don't know.
Yeah, if we were to tell this story.
And maybe it's because we know more about her, I think, since like 2024. So we have to kind of bear that in mind as well.
That's a good point too. Yeah, because as they were recording this, the trial was still going on. And I guess that is different. I think she will go down in history as an icon and a hero. And he will probably be like, he will fade into the background of her story.
Yeah, 100%, which is the right way for it.
Yeah.
And there's already been like a real impact of her doing what she did. So let me see updates since like this kind of trial. Out of the 51 men convicted in the original trial, 17 initially filed appeals.
Okay.
All but one eventually withdrew them.
Oh, that's interesting. Do we know
yeah.
why?
Your man Dogan, the appeals court upheld his conviction and increased his sentence from 9 years to 10 years in prison.
Wait, whose?
The guy who refused to withdraw his appeal.
He refused to withdraw his appeal and they, in response, increased his sentence?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Dominique did not appeal. He was sentenced to the maximum 20 years in prison.
They talked about this. I thought that was an interesting point in this show about that maximum seems low. And I understand that the legal system in different countries is very different. And we've talked about the French legal system before. That's come up at least once. It came up in the West Cork.
Sophie Toscan de Plantier.
Yeah. So it's hard to say. And I know like America is a more lock them up and throw away the key kind of society. But I don't know, 20 years seems, and I get that he's an older man too, so maybe it's a moot point, but feels small to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, 10 years for the other men who were involved in it, who were going onto a website called, what was it called?
It was in
She
French,
doesn't
but
know.
I think it's called Without Her Knowledge or something like that.
Without her knowledge. What's our vibes here? What's our feeling on them changing their ways? It's hard to believe someone who goes out onto a website that's called Without Her Knowledge, goes in, follows this procedure so she won't wake up, does this, and is fine with it, is going to change their ways. It's really hard to believe. It's like how if he was caught upskirting before, and people are like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna never do that again." And it's just hard to believe.
We've talked about this before, and I thought they did talk about this well in this episode about you have to really see a person or a gender as a piece of meat and not as a human, as not someone with any type of autonomy or deserving of any type of respect. That has to be just completely sort of out of your mindset.
Do you know what's so bizarre to me about that whole like discussion? It feels like the men, it's mostly men,
sure,
who feel this way, I feel like there's no ability for them to see that, like, it's okay to view another person with desire. It is okay to want another person. It is okay to have those, like, I don't know, I sometimes feel like the conversation goes to, oh, we can't like look at another woman. We can't like see a woman like with desire, blah, blah. It's like, it's not that. It's that you have to go in with respect. Like, that's the thing that is always missing here. It's like a very left and a very right. There's nothing in between, or a very black and very white situation. And I feel like it's so shocking to me that a man in the 2020s can consider that a woman, as you said, like, is a piece of meat and they have no autonomy over what happens to them. That is baffling to me. Like, it's so baffling. It's just so upsetting because it just feels like it goes back to why there were so many men here in this situation.
It does. This is one of those things, and we do not have to go fully down this path, but this is one of those things where I feel like I don't think this is going to get better. I think this is going to get worse over time. Like, I think the sort of dehumanization of your fellow people out in the world that we witnessed in this story or we heard about in this story, I think runs parallel or could run parallel to just the sort of general societal, like people folding more within themselves and withdrawing from society. You know, we talked about before,
like the neo-Nazism that we were talking about before.
Yeah, I think that's in the same vein. I mean, it also gets to like the whole like bowling alone idea of just like people spending more time by themselves, right? Like this, I mean, this is a global problem, right? Of people just withdrawing from community, like the things that help us kind of see each other as people and as a part of a community. And I'm extrapolating here, but I think that this is my sort of pessimism about the society globally and where it's going, that people are getting more and more disconnected. And I think a consequence of being more and more disconnected is you don't always just see people as people, because you're just surrounded by things, or you're surrounded by proxies for people, virtual people, you know, representations of people. And then when you see real people, sometimes you think they're also just representations of people, because there is no other people. I mean, this is the same thing when you're driving a car and you feel like there's people driving around you who have no sense that there's anyone else who might wish that they used their signals to turn or anything like that. It's all sort of, I think, part of the same soup.
Or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to stop at a red light because there's no one that could possibly be impacted in the world except for me. I think that's a similar but different mindset of, I can go into this house where there's this woman, and she's not a woman, she's not a person even to me. It's a thing that I need and I'm going to do, and there are no consequences. No one's getting hurt, because the only person who could get hurt is me, but I'm getting something I need from it. And that's all that matters. And that's a broad connection to like running a red light. Those are not the same thing. But I feel like that's my
your soapbox. Yeah, I hear you. I think that's what was the most upsetting part of this. But then the upside of this is the new consent law that's been brought in France in October 2025. The conversation about the shame, the conversation about how despicable it was for these men to be there, like that conversation was being had, and it was being had a lot. And there was, I feel like a lot of times when we're talking about rape cases, we've seen it so many times in Ireland, I feel like in the last decade, where, you know, a woman goes in and she's claiming rape, and she's claiming rape sounds really flippant. She's accusing one or multiple people in certain circumstances, some high profile cases in the last while, of rape. And she goes through this trial, and what happens is her underwear is paraded around, and her sexual history is paraded around, and her outfit is paraded around, and how she reacts and how she fancied these men is paraded around. And there's always, when this happens, dialogue of, was it? Do you think in this case it was? Question mark. And it's wild, because that conversation is always present. But for this case, to me at least, from what I saw, that didn't happen. And what I will say is, at least it brought up a conversation of how despicable this is. In the media, without this, did she know? Because there was no question mark really on that. There was video evidence.
Yeah.
She was getting infections. It was clear that he was drugging her. Like, all of this was there. And at least that conversation got to be had with this high profile case, with this strong, ferocious woman being able to stand up and say, shame is not on me.
Yeah.
I don't own that shame, and I will not take it. And I think it was noted here a little bit of it, like, you know, as you get older, you give less. I don't know if they said it like this, but as you get older, you give less fucks. You give less shits. You're like, whatever, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. And was it that? I don't care.
I think
this is not me. Who owns the problem? And it fucking well is not her.
Well, and to sort of take that to the next step, like I do hope that she goes on to serve as a role model and for other people, women or anyone else. Like this is not a necessarily an apples to apples comparison, but I was thinking of the Laramie Project when we went to go see that at Theater Rhinoceros. And I mean, there are stories like that of people being victimized, of people being abused, of people being victims of crime who whether it's them or someone kind of in their name or in their memory sort of reclaims that story and takes ownership of that story in a way. I mean, she did that in an incredibly powerful way. And yeah, part of why she was able to do this was because she was so much older and more mature and at the point in her life where she had the sort of wherewithal to do that. But I do hope she inspires people who are much younger, who are much more inexperienced, who maybe don't have as much confidence to stand up for themselves, to redirect that shame. Because you're right. I mean, that happens in so many situations, so many crimes. It's not just like rape cases. But that's an example. But yeah, I do hope like that is one of the sort of takeaways. So yes, changing the rape laws in France, great, glad that happened. But I also hope that she can be celebrated and emulated for decades to come.
Mm-hmm. I'd say she will be. She has a memoir coming out in January 2026 called A Hymn to Life. It's going to be published in 20 languages.
That's a great sign.
Yeah, and she's quoted as saying, "I'm immensely grateful for the extraordinary support I've received since the beginning of the trial. I now want to tell my story in my own words. Through this book, I hope to convey a message of strength and courage to all those who are subjected to difficult ordeals." That feels like not strong enough. I know it's not just about her. She's trying to empower others, but may they never feel shame. And in time, may they even learn to savor life again and find peace.
That's great.
Yeah, it is great. Like, incredible. Okay, going back to the podcast itself, would you, from listening to this episode, would you be interested in listening to a different episode on a different crime by crime and coffee and crime couple?
I don't think this would be at the top of my list. I think, but some of that is just, this is not a style of podcast that I particularly enjoy. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I might give one or two of the other episodes a go. I didn't dislike it, but I don't know whether I would be eager to get back into it. Do you know, Jeff, since we've started this podcast, I've found it very hard to listen to one-off crime episodes.
Did you used to?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
There's so much.
You're kind of always listening to podcasts for this one.
Yeah, like if I'm going to listen to a one-off episode of something, I kind of want it to be a different subject matter.
A lot of This American Life.
Yeah, This American Life. There's some other like podcasts that I listen to. Good Glow.
Therapist.
A lot of other ones. Some funny ones. Yeah, Therapist. Yeah, good memory. But yeah, I don't know. I do think that when a full series comes out about this case, I'm going to want to listen to it. FYI. Yeah,
let's keep an eye out. I think let's keep an eye out for that. If anyone has listened to other podcasts on this case that they think we should listen to, or if they listen to other episodes of this show that they think we should check out, let us know. Leave a comment. Write to us. Our contact info.
Changing our minds.
Yeah, our contact info is in the notes of this episode. You can reach out to us by email or on Instagram. All the social networks. It's right there. Before we go, we want to let everyone know there is a special winter shorts promotion going on right now. If you go over to patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time, if you either sign up if you haven't joined our Patreon, or if you already are a member and you upgrade your plan, any of the higher tiers, maybe you're on the free plan and you're like, you know what, the free plan is good, but I think I could give these guys $1 a month or a few dollars a month. Anyone who does that in the month of December.
Or if you only want to join for like a month or two, if you just want to try it out, that's okay too.
Yeah, but all the way up to our top tier, our gold standard plan, which is where you get a t-shirt or a hat. I actually just saw somebody out this evening while I was out wearing one of our hoodies. The hoodies are a special item. You can purchase one, but you got to go join on Patreon and let us know that that's something you want, and we will make that happen for you. Special winter shorts promotion anytime in December. New membership or upgrade your membership, and you're going to get a handwritten card from me and Dee. Not just me, also Dee, both of us on the card. We're going to be writing at the same time, 2 pens, writing on that card. It's going to look great, I'm sure. We haven't done it yet, but it's probably going to look great.
2 pence.
And
Does that mean we need different colours to sign our names?
sure.
It's such a random little addition there.
I don't know.
2 pence.
Anyway, go to patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to be back on Thursday with another trip in the time machine.
We'll introduce a new crime and get ready to listen to the story before coming back with a recap just like this one to discuss.
That's on the next So Much Crime.
So little time. So Much Crime, So Little Time is a production of Mind Glove Media. The executive producer is Paxton Caloriso. Our associate producer is Blythe Ty. Our theme music was composed by Vyacheslav Starostin. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this show on your podcast app. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and a review. Even better, tell your friends. To join the discussion, look for us on social media. Check out the show notes for all the links. Thanks for listening.